Hey everyone, my name is Ritesh, and today I want to discuss something about stateful versus stateless architecture. Okay, so if I have to simplify these terms, I would say that stateless is something which can survive a system restart, right? But still, it's not that simple, so let's try to understand with an example. Let's consider a scenario that there is a person who wants to order something from an e-commerce website. Okay, so the first thing that he or she will do is they will enter their username and password and try to log in. Okay, so for that, their web browser will send an HTTP request to the server of those e-commerce websites, right? But there is something known as a load balancer which sits in front of those servers. Okay, so if our client sends an HTTP request, first it will go through the the load balancer, and the load balancer will decide that to which server he wants to send that particular request. Okay, so in the first case, let us consider that the load balancer send that request to our server 1. Now our server 1 will take those username and password and try to match it with the database, right? And when it authenticates that yes, those records match, what our server will do, it will create a session. It will create a session session for our user. Okay. Okay, now let's consider that our client wants to add something to his cart. Okay, now in this case, a client sent the client's browser sent an another HTTP request to add something to his cart. But this time, what our load balancer decides to send that request, instead of server 1, it sends the request to server 2. But the server 2 has no information about our client. Okay, the session was stored in server 1. So for our server 2, our client is a new user. Okay, so it will respond with 403, and our server will ask to log in again, right? This was the example of stateful architecture. uh, Now let's change the scenario. This time, when server 1 received the request, instead of creating a session, our server decided to return something like a cookie. Okay, our server responded with a cookie, and the clients saved that cookie in his local storage. Okay, in his browser, not local storage. Yep. So the second time when the user send the request, this time let us suppose that the load balancer send that request to server 2. With that request, now our server received a cookie, and with the cookie, our server 2 can easily identify the client, and it will add something to his cart, whatever he or she wishes, right? So that was a stateless architecture. Okay,